Harari, in the end, it will be all about the money. How much one of Africa's richest and greediest women will get to keep of her dubiously acquired gains now rests on the embittered enemies who plotted the spectacular downfall of Grace Mugabe, still, just, Zimbabwe's First Lady. As the generals behind Zimbabwe's coup negotiated Robert Mugabe's enforced departure, immunity from prosecution for the first couple and just how much cash the president gets to keep to sustain his wife's lavish lifestyle will be high on the agenda. For a woman whose arrogance was as legendary as her temper, Grace Mugabe's downfall was every bit as humiliating as her husband's, but even more complete. In the capital Harare, the Central Committee of ZANU-PF, the ruling party that once indulged every whim of the Mugabes, met to extract their revenge against a woman as hated in the echelons of power as she was on the streets of Zimbabwe. For Mr. Mugabe, the chairman of the meeting, Albert Mpofu, could muster some words of praise, recalling his many memorable achievements even as the committee stripped him of his leadership of the party. For Mrs. Mugabe, there was only scorn. She stood accused of preaching hate, divisiveness and assuming roles and powers not delegated to office, Mr. Mpofu pronounced. Worse, she and her close associates have taken full advantage of his condition to loot the country's national resources, making it apparent that Mrs. Mugabe rather than her husband would be held accountable for the plundering of Zimbabwe. Get the latest news and updates emailed straight to your inbox. By submitting your email you are agreeing to Fairfax Media's terms and conditions and privacy policy. As delegates clapped and hooted, the First Lady was expelled both from the party and her role as head of its Women's League. Moving from obsequiousness to condemnation in a short week, even the ZANU-PF Youth League, from where she drew her most fanatical support, accused her of being the leader of a gang of criminals and demanded that her expulsion last forever. If he finally accepts resignation, Robert Mugabe may yet emerge with his reputation intact, revered as an elder statesman by a forgiving country. For Mrs. Mugabe it appeared there would be no way back, her fate sealed as a deeply reviled figure, the Imelda Marcos of Zimbabwe. The intimidating aura that once surrounded her has gone, the former typist who caught the eye of her husband, 41 years her senior, while his first wife was dying now faces a future of ignominy and infamy. While some will question whether she should bear responsibility for her husband's sins as well as her own, many Zimbabweans will argue that she richly deserved her fall, one brought about by her attempt to maneuver herself into Mr. Mugabe's shoes. Zimbabweans called her Gucci Grace, marveling and outraged at her ostentation, bullying and larceny on a scarcely believable scale. The bullying manifested itself